Welcome, everybody, to the Huddle, KGO9's weekly streaming sports talk show. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Paris, as always. And, Pat, I figure we're going to start here by talking a little Arizona basketball, coming off a 45-point win over ASU, 105-60, the largest margin of victory ever in the series. And, Caleb Love and Keyshawn did not get a technical foul for the forks down, but I don't know, maybe they should have. Definitely Bobby Hurley there in the background, 1-1, Pat. So I'll let you comment on that, and then we'll get to this week's poll.
I think it's probably worthy of going over and saying, don't do that again. I mean, I don't think it deserved a technical right away. I think they were just getting in the spirit of things, and Bobby Hurley, of course, does what Bobby Hurley does, and that's overreact to everything.
All right, so that leads us to this week's Huddle poll question, and it is, drum roll, please. Arizona is a projected number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Now, this came out by the early reveal, which comes out every February. And Arizona was the 1 seed in the West, even though at the time they were 5th in the AP. Now they're 4th in the AP and legitimate 1 seed here. So what do you think, Pat? A, Tommy Lloyd is crushing it. B, being a number 1 seed hasn't helped in past tournaments, like a couple years ago, like in the in the 2014 tournament when they lost to Wisconsin. Or 3, I'm just glad they blew out ASU, right? So which one would you be going with, A, B, or C?
I lean towards 1, but I understand why 2 comes up as well. And I don't think just beating ASU is anything. I think 1 is actually the one I'm leaning towards. Tommy Lloyd now has 81 wins. That's the most wins in the first 3 seasons of major college basketball as a coach. He had the most wins in the first season. He had the most wins in the second, now third season. So he's crushing it. He just gets a brand new contract extension, and well-deserved. But in the back of your mind, you have to say, what has it gotten them the first 2 years of his career? We'd like to see some progress this year and maybe a Final Four, and things are setting up. They're playing their best basketball as we head towards March, and maybe that bodes well. We'll see.
I think that if you're a glass half full person, you're going to say, A, Tommy Lloyd is crushing it. If you're a glass half empty person, you're going to say it hasn't helped in past tournaments. And if you're someone who doesn't follow it very closely, you're going to say, I'm just glad they beat ASU, which is probably why number 3 won't get that many votes, just like kind of number 3 last week didn't get that many votes. We'll take a look, Pat, at our poll results from last week. And that was, what was most impressive about Arizona's 3 overtime win at Utah? 2/3 of people thought Pell Larson's career high 27 points. So
yeah,
that's understandable. I was in the 1/3. So anyway, Pat, you did mention Tommy Lloyd and his contract extension. Yep. That's a big deal. And the reason that it's a big deal, Pat, is because I would like to think it now has a pretty big buyout, and that can kind of deter not only other universities from contacting him, say Ohio State, but also he can't be that unhappy making $5 million a year when he did say a couple months ago he didn't come to Arizona for budget cuts.
Yes, you're right about that. I think this was in the works all along. I think we had heard rumblings that even when they were getting close to Jed Fish's contract, that they were also dealing with Tommy Lloyd's, and we've heard the last couple of weeks that it was getting closer. I think it's important. The most important thing is you've got to keep up with the Joneses, right? You've got to make sure that you're keeping your elite coach in that elite pay scale that everybody else seems to be getting. This puts him, in my estimation, Jason, right now, and this could change by next year when the new contract actually takes effect. It would put him 6th among all college basketball coaches in America. And right now, you'd have to say that Arizona is a top 6 program in America, over these last 3 years with Tommy Lloyd. So it's fitting. Is he ever going to get to Bill Self money? Well, he's got to win some national championships like Bill Self, who estimates say he makes $10 million a year. For Tommy Lloyd, at the end of this contract, it'll be what, $6 million in the 5th year. So starting out at $5.25 million, it's pretty hefty money, Jason, for a school that has budget issues. But remember, and the U of A pointed this out yesterday in the news release about the new contract, this money is donor based. They get this money from all the athletic supporters, boosters that follow U of A athletics, and they want to make sure their coaches are paid. That's where that money comes from, not from the general fund of the University of Arizona.
Yeah, it's been maybe a top 6 program the last 3 years, regular season wise, but not in the postseason. Yeah. But I'll tell you something I saw the last 2 weeks that makes me a little bit more optimistic, and that's the play of Jaden Bradley. He has become a legitimate 6th starter. Right? They were not getting production off the bench the first part of this year was Arizona. KJ Lewis is inconsistent, a ton of potential, but looks like a freshman. Mo Krivas, kind of the same situation. Again, inconsistent. I think can be in this. I think both of those guys can be starters next year, right? But they look a little like freshmen. Jaden Bradley's not a freshman. Maybe he's a redshirt one, but he's not a freshman.
No, he played last year at Alabama. So
and I think he played. I think he took a little bit of time maybe to get used to the system. But boy, 21 points off the bench, and not just the ASU game. He's played at a higher level the last week and a half.
I think, and it's kind of coincided with where Umar Ballo's play has kind of elevated with I think it's now, is it 5 straight doubles he's had, and you've got to get that scoring from somewhere else sometimes, Jason. And I think you've got to get bench scoring, and that, you're right, that's lacked in this team. We've seen Jaden Bradley do some nice things up until this point, but these last couple of weeks, you're right, he's elevated his play. That not only bodes well for the rest of this year, but it makes you feel a lot better about where they're going to be next year, because you're going to lose some of these upperclassmen. Obviously, the Caleb Loves and the Keyshawn Johnsons are going to be gone, and you need some scoring. You need some veteran leadership, and he's certainly going to provide that.
I think all three of those guys who come off the bench this year can be starters next year, along with Carter Bryant, who will be
Carter Bryant, the 5-star. Yep.
And there's 4 guys right there, and maybe some of the guys who can't crack the lineup this year can be, bench players next year, like a Conrad Martinez, who has had
Martinez has had a good couple of games.
He's fun to watch. Good assist to Krivas, and I think there's something there for sure.
Yep.
A couple of big men who aren't playing too, with Henry Vasar and Dylan Anderson.
Right, he's been hurt this season. Yeah,
so we'll see about that. But that's next year. This year's this year, and things are starting to looking a lot more promising now.
And I was just going to say that where we were a month ago with this team and where we are now, I think it's a complete 180. I think we know that it's not a finished product, and they still have a ways to go. And we know that matchups can be an issue when you get into the tournament, the NCAA tournament. But you got to feel that they're trending in the right direction, and trending rather quickly in some regards. But we'll see. Don't forget Washington State. A lot of people are building up that game as the regular season championship on the line. There'll still be 5 games after that to see, but it'll be a big game. You want to win that game. You're at home. You really have to win that game, Jason.
Who's your Pac-12 player of the year?
Mine's Caleb Love, but we'll have to see. There's still a little bit more time left in that. Caleb's had some great games. He's also had some games where he's been a little less than good, but for the most part, he's been pretty consistent this year as Arizona's top scorer.
It's not like they've got a dominant star. A couple of years ago was Matherin. He's legitimately their best player. Is Caleb Love Arizona's best player? I guess.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he is.
I guess.
In my mind, he's their best player, and he's the best player on the best team. And a lot of times, that's where you start. At least it doesn't always come down to that. It's not like the Heisman Trophy where it's the best player on the best team or whatever. But in this case, at least start there. And I think Caleb Love's the guy that I would start with.
I would rather have his forks down and his toed to a degree than somebody going through the motions, or a situation like last year when nobody put the team on its back. I'd rather have this. Is he a little bit too much? Yeah. Are we fine with it because he's wearing the Arizona on the front of the uniform? Yeah, sure. If he was doing it for Oregon, we wouldn't like him very much, but he's doing it for Arizona, so it's okay. It's a little much. But and it's not one time, Pat, either. It's to the ASU. It's to the Duke players. It was on the road a couple weeks ago. So there's a little bit of a pattern here. So he's got to be careful with it. You just don't want to see him get a tee at a bad time in the second half.
Well, that's true. You don't want to see him get a technical in a critical moment. But I think what you have to remember is what his teammates do and how they respond when he has that little attitude, and they respond really well. And I think that that's what a teammate like that does for you. If he's on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, you hate him.
All right. So because Tommy Lloyd, his contract is now set through 2029, and a brand new football coach as well. New athletic director comes in here, Desiree Reed-Francois. She's introduced today. She does not have to look for a football coach or a basketball coach for some time, unless something really wacky happens. She's got plenty of other things she's got to do, like erase a budget deficit and and find some NIL money and revenue. But she's introduced today, and that's her and her family. Actually, the taller guy there is her son, who plays on the Missouri basketball team that's 0-12 in the SEC. So I don't think Arizona is going to be playing Missouri in the NCAA tournament, but it's a welcome back to Tucson for her. She was a law student in the mid 1990s.
Yeah. And a very impressive person, Jason. I was very pleasantly not surprised, but just really felt good about her ability to do what they want her to do, and that really is take charge in a brand new era in college athletics that we've never seen before. Nobody knows how to navigate this landscape, but she at Missouri in 3 years seemed to be out front of this, help them to have a budget surplus. Where do you hear that? Unless you're Alabama or someone, one of the or Ohio State or Michigan, there's no budget surplus going on. Everybody has budget deficits. She was able to navigate at Missouri and get them ahead of the curve. And I think that's what makes it exciting, is that somebody can at least get this budget in line, find some more money, and then not just booster money, Jason, but NIL money and ways to generate revenue, whether it be naming rights for the for McHale Center, naming rights for Arizona Stadium, something to boost that revenue. And I think she's the right person at the right time.
Yeah, that would be nice to see the naming rights. I don't think fans would mind. There's been some cities and some situations where, fans were not happy about their stadium or their facility being named a certain brand name. But I think in this case, I don't think Arizona fans would mind knowing what they know about the budget deficit, and also, hey, it might be less money coming out of their pockets for tickets and concessions as well. They'll have to jack those prices up as much, but it would be kind of funny to see, Arizona Stadium have a corporate sponsor in front of it.
Yeah, but that's the reality of where we're at, Jason, and I think there's going to be some pushback if, say, some major, budget rental car became a sponsor of McHale Center, and people are going to be disappointed and upset. And
Mr. T Car Wash, only
yeah,
publicly traded company based
right
in Tucson.
Right, it could be, but and Pop McHale is a legend, and he will always be, and they need to continue to honor him in a lot of ways on that campus. But it's this time where you got to find revenue streams that you've not been able to generate before. She'll do it. She did it at Mizzou. They got new facilities built there. If you go back and look what she did several years ago at UNLV, huge new facility upgrades, new buildings, everything. So she knows what she's doing. She's done it before. She'll do it here and help navigate an area that this university is a little lagging a little bit behind. Not nobody's fault. It just what happens is if you're not ahead of it, you're going to be behind it.
Yeah, President Dr. Robbins, made it seem like he was pretty thrilled that she said yes, and they were able to get somebody who's already been, successful at a current Power 5 conference. You take a look at the previous athletic director, nothing against Dave Hickey, but he came from Central Michigan, I believe it was. So it was a group of 5. Before that, Greg Byrne did come from, I want to say, Oregon State.
Yeah.
So actually, that would have been the same conference. So they're able to get somebody from a Power 5 and is not really making a leap from a smaller type of program that might be, wowed or in over his or her head by a Power 5 program. So
Wally Wildcat has something to say about he doesn't want to see a corporate stadium name like ASU. Says it's gross, and I agree, but he gets it, and I think we all get it. I think that unfortunately might have to happen. Jason,
I don't think it's gross. I think you got to pay the bills.
Yeah, you've got to pay the bills. I think what struck me about Reed Francois was how much more of a connection she feels she has to the University of Arizona. You think about somebody who got their undergrad at UCLA, and then she comes here to get her Juris Doctorate at the U of A Law School. And you think, okay, law school students, they come in, they spend their few years here, and they're gone, and they go off and practice law. But she seemed to have, and you're going to tell this story tonight at 6:00, and I won't get too deep into it because I want people to see your story, but she has a real connection to the people at the University of Arizona, and they made her feel welcome, and they helped her through some tough times. And I think that has made her feel like the University of Arizona in Tucson is much more home than Columbia, Missouri obviously was. Columbia, Missouri was a great situation in an SEC conference, but I don't think she felt the connection there. And when Dr. Robbins called, I think that she knew that this was the right place for her. She's back in the West, in the western part of the country, back closer to California, closer to home.
Yeah, when she was at the U of A, her brother got into a football accident and was left a quadriplegic. So it was um, an emotional time, and she said she received a lot of empathy from the U of A. All right, let's take a look now. Pat Parrish, Jason Barr. I'm Jason Barr with the Huddle, KGO9's weekly streaming sports talk show. Let's go back and now take a look at our poll and some early results, Pat. Arizona's projected #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Your take. Okay, so we got some results in. 40% saying Tommy Lloyd is crushing it. 20% saying it hasn't helped. 40% saying I'm just glad they beat ASU. Huh. I think those numbers will maybe skew to the first one, but maybe not. Maybe the venom towards ASU is so
that's
strong
it. That's it.
that brings a nerve.
Anytime you ask about ASU, they're going to always side. It does. It's a trigger point for us Wildcat fans for sure.
I think, Pat, if that Territorial Cup game had gone a little bit one way, they could have gotten 70 back against ASU. That play before the half when Cowing just dropped it in the end zone.
Yeah.
I think they would have had. What would they have had at that point? I think that would have put them in the 40s at halftime.
Yeah. Oh, I think it probably would have.
They were right there.
Yeah. Well,
they were right there. Would they ended up with 59?
I think it was 59. That
59.
sounds right. It was still a blow. It still felt really good. Is it going to take away the shame of the 70-7? No, but it sure makes it a little less. And you know what, Jason? Say what you want. I know football's one side of things and basketball's the other, but beating ASU 105-60 is an embarrassment for ASU. That's really bad to score 60 points against your rival and get beat by 45.
I counted the number of times that Arizona scored, I think it's 97 or 97 points this year. It was like 9 or 10. 9 or 10 times they scored 97. There's a couple of, was against a bad team, and, one was a 3 overtime game, and you could throw some asterisks in there. But this team scores points.
They do.
The offense is clicking. It's fun to watch. But they definitely went through a little bit of a rough stretch there earlier in this calendar year when they didn't play as well on the road. So, and I still worry about that 3-point defense. But
I think you saw some corrections being made over the last couple of weeks. Once it wasn't an Oregon State that was just lighting them up, and I think the help defense is great. But you've got to know when, and it's something you learn over time, and that's when you have to drop back off and get to that man that's going to take the wide open three. You don't want it to be that easy for him. And I think you've seen, if you go back and watch, or you will watch on Thursday night late, by the way, it's a 9:00 tip, I think, Tucson time against Washington State. You'll see them come with some help defense, but don't forget about the man you're supposed to be guarding out there. You've got to be able to get back to him. And you can't leave guys wide open because these guys.
I think it's 8. I don't mean to correct you. I think it's 8.
What's that?
The game.
Oh, is it 8? Maybe I'm.
We'll double check. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Maybe I'm over exaggerating it as being 9, but it's definitely, it's one of those times where because we haven't changed back clocks yet, or the rest of the country hasn't changed back clocks yet. We tend, if we're going to be the late game, we're really late. No, 9 p.m., Jason. 9 p.m. on Fox Sports 1.
You're probably right. I don't know why this says 8, but it was a Google search. No, I trust you. 9 o'clock. Okay, you were saying though. Finish your point.
Well, just that you've got to recognize that there are guys that are going to make wide open threes, and you can't allow that to happen. I think they've done a better job of it. Occasionally, guys are going to be wide open. That's the way it is with when you play a lot of help defense. But you've got to make better decisions when you're that guy coming over to help to when to get back, and you've got to get back earlier. You can't be just flying by too late, and he's already got the 3 on the way.
All right, that's going to be a big game against Washington State on Thursday night, with the winner likely winning the Pac-12 regular season. No.
Yeah, there's the potential for that. There's still a little bit, 5 games left after that. I would think that that Arizona has a decided advantage being at home in the way they've been playing, but Washington State, I think they've won 7 in a row, and Arizona
Yeah.
wins 6 in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be a good buzz in McHale Center for that
I
game.
would think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been the Huddle, KGUN9's weekly streaming sports talk show. For Pat Paris, I'm Jason Barr. Feel free to keep voting in our poll. We'll try to remember to show the results next week, come up with a new fun little poll for you. And we're going to do that every week this year on the Huddle, every week that we're on the air. So feel free to vote, and you can always put your comments in during the show as well if you're watching live on Tuesday afternoons. For Pat Paris, I'm Jason Barr. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you right back here at this time next week.